Hello, Jerry Tachoir here with Season 2, Episode 18 of Ask Jerry Tachoir. My apologies for not doing one of these videos. It's been quite a number of months. I don't remember the last one I actually did. But with COVID-19 calming down across the world, my touring schedule has gotten very busy, which is a good thing. It just didn't allow me to have any time to sit down and put that video together. So I apologize for that. But anyway, we have some good questions, and if you'd like to ask me a question, simply go to my website, www.tachoir, T-A-C-H-O-I-R, tachoir.com, and in the upper right corner, there's a little contacts tab. Hit that, fill out the information with your name and whatever, and ask the question, and maybe we'll do one of these videos. And I also ask you if you could subscribe to these videos. For some reason, it seems to help out. I'm not really sure, but you'll be notified when more videos come out. The question I picked today actually has a lot to do with what's going on with my career and my life right now. So I picked this question. It comes from Michael in El Paso, Texas. Hello, Jerry. Hope you are well. Just want to compliment you on your educational videos and amazing playing. I'm a big fan. I watched your video on extended range vibes and actually totally agree that finishing the instrument down to C is the future and the way to go. My question is this. Having your credentials and playing skills, there are companies making extended range vibes. Why would you continue to endorse Musser when you could play any instrument you want? Wish you the best, Michael. Well, Michael, to be honest with you, things have changed recently, but let me tell you, when I endorse an instrument, my endorsement is based off of one item, and that is the quality of sound on the instrument. When I was in high school, when I was a junior in high school, I played Musser instruments, and I was approached by Mr. Ludwig at a Mideast music conference to endorse his company. I was ecstatic. This was what I wanted to do. This is the instruments I believed in. Again, I'm not one that jumps from company to company because of a better deal or money. I have to believe in the instrument. And at that time, there really weren't a lot of choices. You had basically the quality instruments were Musser and Deegan. And I was already playing Musser. So it worked out. I mean, it was a great arrangement. I was tickled pink. I couldn't have asked for anything better. Mr. Ludwig was an incredible guy. He took me to a lot of great places to perform, even though I was in high school, and then after that I was in college, and I was still involved with the orchestras in Pittsburgh. So my available time to do things was somewhat limited, but he did take me to some really nice music conferences and events where I was asked to both perform and do an educational clinic. Mr. Ludwig would pick up my travel arrangements. He would cover my hotel. He would give me cover my food expenses, and he would pay me a really nice check to cover my costs and to pay me for doing the event. And it was a great arrangement. I was so thrilled, and this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Well, somewhere around, I guess, the mid to early 80s, Mr. Ludwig saw the writing on the wall, and that he decided that he needed to get better international exposure and distribution. And for that reason, he sold the Ludwig company, Ludwig Musser, to Selmer. This started a lot of changes, and I went through a whole bunch of these changes, and it was witness to a lot of the events that occurred at that time. I understand corporate thinking and corporate philosophy. Corporations exist for the purpose of making money. And how do you make money? Well, you sell a lot of widgets. Well, if you don't sell a lot of widgets, then you do one of two things. You either start to eliminate people, or you start to find a cheaper way to make the widgets that you can make more money. And for corporations, especially corporations that exist in the stock market, they have to show profits so that their investors and their stockholders will then buy more stocks, and the value of the stock will go up. And that corporate thinking is not really conducive to the arts in general, especially the music business. Musser did a little bit of both of these things. There became what was known as the Christmas Massacre, when basically Conselmer came in and eliminated everybody that was in the front office that came through Ludwig Musser and was part of the merger. They got rid of all the Ludwig Musser people. There was a person there who was brilliant. He took care of business. He was in charge of artist relations and marketing for Ludwig Musser. He took care of business. He was so together. If you needed something, he took care of it. If you had an event, the contract was taken care of. If you needed an instrument, he provided an instrument out of clinic stock. It was dealt with. All the papers were organized so that if you had to send the instrument back, there was no problem, and you actually got paid on time. Well, I called up shortly after Christmas, and I asked to speak to this person, and the phone got kind of quiet, and then a few seconds later, I was informed that, well, this person is no longer with the company. With that being said, a lot of things, again, started changing rapidly. They went through these managers, the Ludwig Musser marketing managers and clinic people, like left and right. It became like the revolving door of who's next. And most of these people came in and they stayed for about 2 years, and then they were either fired or they left. There was one person at Ludwig Musser who was sort of the pickup person. He was always there, and he started out as the marketing manager. Then he was replaced, and then when they fired that marketing manager, he fell into it again and did it for a couple years, and then they would replace him with somebody else, and then he would get fired, and then this pickup person would jump back in, and he was kind of the continuity of Ludwig Musser that this sort of kept confidence going with the artists, and he was kind of always there. Every time one of these artist reps or managers, whatever you want to call them, came in, we would meet with them as artists, and I remember all the meetings they would say to me, "Jerry, you're one of our most in-demand artist clinicians on the roster. You've been with us the longest. How can we help you?" And I would always say to them, well, look, let us finish the instrument. Let's take it down to C. The world of F vibraphone is limited, cumbersome, and just not a great choice of notes. If we could, at the minimum, if we could have an E, would satisfy a lot of things, but the perfect instrument is down to C. And every one of them assured me, says, well, this is something we're talking about. This is something we want to do. There's a lot of things we have to do first. It is in talks, it's in communications. However, it's on the back burner. But anyway, that sort of satisfied me that, okay, this is something that I can count on maybe in a year or two that might work out. Well, that person got fired. Again, the intermediate person took over and blah, blah, blah. And then, so they actually hired this one guy he was an older guy, and he came into the industry via the marching side of percussion, the drum corps side of percussion. And I met with him, and he asked me again, he said, Jerry, you're one of our most in-demand clinicians. How can we help you? And I said, well, look, let's finish the instrument. The vibraphone needs to go down to C. I'll work with you, whatever it needs to do. Let's get it done. And he assured me, he says, you know what? I will have a prototype at your front door in 3 weeks. You play it, mess with it, and then he said, we'll get together after that, have you out to the factory, we'll refine it, we'll tweak it, we'll do whatever we need to do and make it right. And I was ecstatic. Finally, I'm going to get what I wished for forever and ever and ever, an extended range down to C. C is perfect. I don't want anything higher than what we have right now, because those notes up there just are getting too thin or not that great anyway. And it goes high enough, but down to C would be the perfect instrument. So anyway, I was told then by the intermediate person that I talked about earlier, that, Jerry, it's not going to happen. He says, this guy tells everybody exactly what they want to hear. He said, there's no budget for it. There's no interest in it. Nobody's going to do it. Forget it. It's not going to happen. And sure enough, it didn't happen. And after about 1.5 years, this person that they hired was replaced. And this went on and on and on for a long time. And I could see where Conn-Selmer's interest was pretty much status quo. I mean, they're a good company. They make great instruments, and they just got complacent with the vibraphone. The vibraphone, the Musser M55, has a brilliant design. It's held up forever. However, they've changed a few things that made it not as good, and some things that were problems, like the dampening felt. The dampening felt that they use is inconsistent and too hard. You cannot dampen the instrument when the felt is like hard like a rock. All it does is make noise, and it never really clears the notes. The rubber insulation posts that go between each one of the bars that sits, that goes over the posts. It used to be in the earlier instruments, it worked very well. However, people complained that on the silver bars that there was a yellow staining on the aluminum bars. And this came because there was sulfur in this rubber, and the sulfur somehow got into the bars and made a stain. So they got rid of that, and they went with this rubber insulation that's a lot softer, and it's a lot stickier. And because it's stickier, it actually rubs against the bar, and it makes a noise. And this noise can be heard when you push the pedal down, and the bars, they move a little bit. They move up and down, so you could hear this noise. So when you're recording, it was inevitable you would get this background, just junky noise. So things like that never got fixed, and it got worse and worse and worse. So anyway, apparently somebody, and I don't really know who, but I have a good idea, somebody at Conn-Selmer was not very happy with my Season 2, Episode 16, where I answered a question about extended range vibraphones. And I came out immediately and I said that, I'm a Musser artist. Musser does not make an extended range vibraphone. So I had one from Yamaha, and I borrowed one from my friends at Adams, and I brought it over and I played it and I demonstrated it. I showed how this instrument could be so vital with an extended range and how it just opens up possibilities. And I also showed where it isn't quite perfect yet. Some of the bottom notes, especially on the Yamaha, didn't have a really good fundamental. You heard the harmonic more than you actually heard the fundamental. And that was a problem. But by having those three notes, opened up the world and made the instrument really, really a nice instrument. Because I got this email that said, we are not happy with your video. At that point, I had a 90-day obligation. And so my 90-day obligation went up, and as of September, I guess it was September 15th, I no longer endorse Ludwig Musser. It's somewhat bittersweet. It's bitter in the fact that I was a few months short of 50 years with a company that I wanted to be with forever. 50 years short. And I was hoping for the gold watch, 50 years. But at the same time, the sweet part was now I'm able to play all the other instruments and explore and see what's out there. Now, most colleges have a Musser instrument, and most of them have Musser instruments that go back to like the 60s and 70s, and usually they're the ones that are in the corner of the room with the wheels falling off, and they're leaning, and all the posts that hold up the bars are all bent in and touching each other, and very unplayable, and usually they have a tuba sitting on it. But then in the middle of the room is a brand new Yamaha or a brand new Adams instrument, and being a Musser artist at that time, I had to play the Musser instrument, so it was a challenge. Now I'm free. I could do whatever I want to do, and I can play all the other instruments, and then the word got out, and the world opened up to me. I've got all these interests from all the companies to play their instruments. And again, my decision, my endorsement to an instrument relies on exclusively one thing, and that is the sound of the instrument. And also the build quality. I don't want something that's going to fall apart or be junky, but the build quality is sort of secondary to the sound. I got to have a really good sounding instrument. So I did pretty much play all the instruments, and I met with most of the companies and discussed what they had to offer and expectations. And then a couple years ago, I was in Italy and I played a Bergerault instrument, one of their new ones. It's called the Signature Series. What an amazing instrument. It sounded delightful. So I got approached by Bergerault and I said, well, I need the instrument. I need to play the instrument before I can make any kind of commitment. Again, I'm basing it off of quality of sound. So they said, we will send you one. We will send you an extended range tuned to 440, which was my request. Again, I live in the United States. A440 is the standard. Synthesizers are tuned to 440. Guitars tuned to 440. Pianos are tuned to 440. The people who decided that, oh, well, we're going to tune to A442, I don't know what they were thinking. I remember when that happened at Musser, and I remember the guy who made the final decision, and I asked him, I said, why would you do this? And he says, well, Yamaha is doing it, so we figured we need to compete with Yamaha, and we need to do what Yamaha does. And I'm going like, no, be your own person, be your own company. You live in the States, you make your instruments in the States, tune for the United States, 440. So anyway, Bergerault said, we're going to send you an instrument. And I was expecting this instrument in September. Well, with the global shipping hassles that were going on, this instrument somehow it was coming from France, it got hung up in a boat somewhere. And it stayed on this boat and floated around the oceans of the world. And I just got it a few weeks ago in March. And I opened it up, put it together, and the build quality was so perfect on this instrument. I didn't have to do anything to it. It opened up and played. And again, this is coming from Europe and sitting on a boat for, well, since, I don't know, 5-6 months. And I played the instrument and literally fell in love with it. The bottom 3 notes, the fundamental was there, the range of the notes. So anyway, as of, I believe it's March 20th, signed the contract, I now endorse Bergerault vibraphones and mallet instruments, and I am so pleased. Immediately, I'm getting emails from the head people at the company in France. We're communicating back and forth, and they're ecstatic to have me on their roster, and they're doing whatever I need to do, and we're working together. And my wife, fortunately, is French-Canadian, so she speaks French, and with my broken French, we communicate very well, and it seems like it's going to be a great relationship. So now I'm supporting and endorsing an instrument that's finally finished. And I say finally finished because it goes down to C. It just makes sense, sounds awesome. I used it in my first concert at Truman State University in Missouri last week. A good friend of mine, Michael Bump, who's the teacher there, he said he sat in the theater, beautiful theater, by the way, and he said he was listening to it because he was critiquing the instrument as well. And he came up to me and afterwards, and he says, man, this instrument sounds amazing. He said, from the bottom to the top, it's well balanced. The fundamental of the bottom frequencies, the bottom notes just sounded awesome. And I was so glad to hear that. It was so much fun to play. So there you go. I did change, and I am now playing an instrument that is finished, and it's just awesome. I highly recommend it, and I just wanted to get that word out there. So anyway, please, be open-minded, check things out. Don't be sold on one brand of instrument. Do like I did, make the rounds, and really give all the instruments a chance. But if you're anything like me, I'm looking for quality of sound, and I've definitely found it. And I also found a company that is kind and fun to work with, and we seem to get along. It's still a family company, and I think it's being run now by the grandsons of the original Bergerault family. And it's a brilliant organization, and I'm so happy to be part of it. So with that being said, please go ahead onto my website, subscribe to my videos, and also ask me some questions. And I'm going to try to be a little bit better at getting these out more often. My schedule is still getting very busy, but I think I can make it work out. So thank you very much. And again, thank you. And I'm looking forward to playing my Bergerault instruments around the world. And come on up and say hello. Take care. Bye-bye.